Hi, and welcome back to the Red Zone Warriors Fantasy Football Show. Today is Wednesday, December 3rd. I am Rob the Commish Smith, here as always with my partner in crime, Jay Cushman Corsel. Well, Cushman, your Lions crushing the Bears on Thanksgiving Day must have made your Turkey Day just that much more joyous.
You have no fucking idea how great it made the day. It just, everything after that was just, well...
Gravy?
Rainbows and roses and gravy.
There you go. Seems like forever ago since that game was on. Jeez.
Yeah.
All right. Well, tweet us all your fantasy football questions, as always, at Red Zone Warriors. All right, Jay, let's get right to it and start with the latest news and notes and, more importantly, injuries around the NFL.
Yeah, well, we got big news here out of Arizona. Bruce Arians says that the running back, Andre Ellington, has a, quote, severe hip pointer, and he's a game time decision. The beat writer said that he won't practice this week, and the team hopes he can go against the Chiefs. But if he doesn't practice, he probably won't play. It's a game time decision. So if you are one of those people out there with Andre Ellington on your team, and you're in the playoffs, this is not really news that you are too happy to be hearing.
No, but you better prepare for it for sure. All right, so Colts tight end Dwayne Allen is expected to play Week 14. Says head coach Chuck Pagano that he is, quote, trending up. He said that last Monday. So we'll see. Kobe Fleeners, of course, he's been actually one of the better tight ends over the last 2 or 3 weeks point-wise, even though he does drop wide-open touchdowns every once and again. He's been doing quite well. So with Dwayne Allen back in the mix, it's going to kind of cluster this up a little bit. But the way the tight end landscape is, you'll probably have to play one or either of them moving forward.
Yeah, that's not a great prospect, is it? All right, the Titans have placed Justin Hunter on injured reserve. He's at a Houston hospital recovering from a lacerated spleen that he received in last week's game. Nate Washington should see more of a role now as the wide receiver 2. Derek Hagan and Chris Durham, which Titans fans don't put too much faith in old Chris Durham. I'm just going to tell you that. We'll move up the depth chart. Zach Mettenberger's status is uncertain heading into Week 14, and the entire Titan offense is probably one to stay away from for the most part, especially heading into the fantasy playoffs.
All right, well, this just in, after speculating the last couple of days about the quarterback situation in Cleveland, Brian Hoyer, surprisingly I might add to some extent, will remain the starter for the Browns for this upcoming week. Wow, I thought they'd kind of turn the tide there, but that is not the case. So we'll see how Hoyer does in the first half against the Colts. If things aren't going well, he'll probably get yanked as he was last week early in the second half, and we might be going through this same conversation speculating who's going to start next week. But as of now, it is Brian Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer. Man, I don't know. All right, well, hey, the breakout party can continue. Torrey Smith's knee injury is not serious. The Ravens wide receiver is day-to-day after landing on his right knee while trying to catch a pass in the end zone late in Sunday's game. Although he grabbed his right knee and didn't return to the Ravens' final series in a 34-33 loss to the Chargers, John Harbaugh downplayed the severity of the injury Monday and predicted that Smith will be preparing for next Sunday's game against the Dolphins. Smith declined to comment on the injury after the game, but he was limping.
That's never good. It's never good. All right, report says Deshaun Jackson should play in Week 14. Of course, he's a veteran guy. Probably won't practice much of this week at all. Might see some light work Thursday or Friday. But if you own Deshaun, needing to play him, definitely check his status on Friday to see what his situation is.
Yeah, that would be a wise decision. All right, Rob, if I were to tell you that Sammy Watkins is injured, would you be surprised?
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm going to tell you that because he has an injured hip. He suffered a hip injury in Sunday's 26-10 win against the Browns. It is unclear if Watkins, who played every snap in the contest, will be ready to practice Wednesday. Doug Marrone said, I have no idea. I really don't know. I'll have a better gauge on it by Wednesday, which gives us exactly no information to go on. So thanks a lot there, Doug Marrone.
Yeah, nice job out of you, big fella. All right, Rashad Jennings, according to Ian Rappaport, shouldn't miss time. He had suffered an ankle injury towards the latter part of last week's game. It's going into a great matchup, too. He's been a really good running back for those who've had him. I know he was out for a little bit, but he was great before then. He's been great since he's been back. But he did tweak that ankle, and he did not go back into the game, so that's never a great sign. But they're going up against Tennessee, which is like 32nd ranked versus running back, so it's a great matchup going into your fantasy playoffs. So we're really hoping that he's going to play. Me especially. He was not present at practice Wednesday, I just read, so that doesn't necessarily mean he's out, folks. That's kind of a veteran day off, so we'll see as Thursday and Friday heads in. But if you don't have him, then one Mr. Andre will probably be filling in again there for the Giants.
Yeah, that's not great. All right, Miles Austin is on an injured reserve. He's done. He's has an injury to his kidney. So that's a no-go for Miles Austin. That means Andrew Hawkins is probably going to see some more targets because of that. So sorry to hear that. That sucks, man.
It does indeed. All right, D'Angelo Williams has a broken finger, evidently. He fractured it, Coach Ron Rivera said post-game. So he's day-to-day situation. They're going to evaluate it once the swelling goes down. Of course, if he misses time, then Jonathan Stewart will be in line for more work there, which is pretty good situation there. If D'Angelo's out, Jonathan Stewart can actually put up some decent numbers. I believe he put up over 100 all-purpose yards last game when D'Angelo was out, so definitely keep him in mind as a possible flex play.
Yeah, I hate playing either of those guys, but if one of them's out, it's not a terrible play. All right, well, Jamal Charles has a bruised knee. Not great news for his owners. Andy Reid said he thinks that Charles will be available for the Arizona game in Week 14. He had some swelling in his knee, played through it Sunday night. It's a tough matchup against the Cardinals. But the ageless Steven Jackson, seemed to do just fine in Week 13. Charles does have favorable matchups in Week 15 against Oakland and Week 16 against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, hopefully the Jamal Charles owners out there have Niall Davis, as we've been touting all season. So I hope they just either say he's good to go or he's not, so you know who to play there. So, all right, moving on to Saints running back Kyrie Robinson is expected back in Week 14, says Coach Sean Payton. So, he's coming back from this arm injury he had. We'll see what this does to Mark Ingram. I think Mark Ingram's still going to be worth a flex play, but it's going to be tough to consider him a super solid RB2, probably low end if anything, because you got Pierre Thomas back as well. We're kind of back in this cluster that we were, a couple months ago.
Yeah, I'm not liking that. I picked up Mark Ingram when all that stuff went down, and he's been, absolutely amazing for me. And now this is happening, and heading into the playoffs, it's not my favorite type of shit to deal with. All right, Dante Moncrief moves into Indianapolis' wide receiver 3 role. Andrew Luck's big game came on the same day that Moncrief finally pushed past Hakeem Nicks on the depth chart. While Reggie Wayne losing a step, the Colts need Moncrief's playmaking ability. As an alternative to T.Y. Hilton, they can't just throw him the ball the whole time. So the third-round rookie has the size and athleticism to become a star, especially with Andrew Luck as his quarterback.
Yeah, indeed he does. I think he's going to go in kind of mid-rounds next year for fantasy drafts. We'll see how that works out. All right, well, that's it for the news and notes. We're going to move on to the Week 13 recap, where we quickly go through each game and talk about all the fantasy-relevant information. So we're going to start, Jay, with your Lions and the Bears. Oh, my. Last Thursday, on Thanksgiving Day, no less, like they do every year. And, man, the Lions, they were victorious, as they should be, against the lesser Bears team. So I'm going to kick us off here with the hapless Lions. Jay Cutler, 31 of 48 for 280, two
Hapless
touchdowns.
Bears there, Chief.
Oh, what did I say?
You said hapless Lions. I'm going to come through the screen and...
God, strike me down. Strike me down. Jay Cutler, like I said, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, kind of had a Cutler day. Rushing-wise, very odd day for Matt Forte. Didn't get many carries. He only got 5 carries for 6 yards. Very odd there. Receiving-wise, Forte was involved as he typically is. 6 receptions for 52 yards. Alshon Jeffrey targeted team-high 13, caught 9 for 71 and 2 scores. It was definitely an Alshon Jeffrey day. Brandon Marshall caught 6 of 11 for 42. And Martellus Bennett decided to play some football in late November. That's new. Caught 8 of his 11 targets for 109 yards.
Yeah, well, we'll move on to the not-so-hapless Lions.
Mm-hmm.
And Matthew Stafford, 34 of 45, 390 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now that's the Matthew Stafford I want to see. Joique Bell, 23 carries for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. Great day for Joique. Calvin Johnson, this was like a 40-point day for Calvin. 11 receptions, 146 yards and 2 touchdowns. Golden Tate, 8 for 89. Theo Riddick did catch the ball a lot with the absence of Reggie Bush, 6 catches for 54 yards. And Eric Ebron showed up a little bit, 3 for 23. So, all in all, pretty damn good day for the Lions. Really good day for Calvin Johnson owners, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, he is back. All right, so we're going to move on to game number 2 from Thanksgiving, and that was the Eagles' drubbing of the Cowboys. Wow, yeah, so Mark Sanchez is here. The Sanchez was 20 of 29 for 217 yards and 1 touchdown. LaShawn McCoy, and for those of you freaking out about him, I know it was kind of slow there for a while, but if you held on to him, he is coming through for his owners. Carried the ball a whopping 25 times for 159 yards and a score. Yeah, nice day out of you. Jeremy Maclin caught all 8, as I love to say, of his 10 targets for 108 yards. Good day there, especially in PPR. Even standard, he did well. And Jordan Matthews caught 4 of 5 for 51 and the score. Darren Sproles just kind of peppered in there, got all 3 of his targets, but only for 19 yards, so didn't get a whole lot done for his owners.
He actually did catch all 3 of his targets, right?
He indeed did.
Right. All right, moving on, Dallas side of the ball, Tony Romo. Not a great day for the Romo. 18 to 29, 199 yards and 2 picks. DeMarco Murray doing DeMarco Murray things, just not quite getting 100 yards. 20 carries, 73 yards, did get a touchdown. Dez Bryant, 4 catches, 73 yards. And not a great day on the receiving end of the ball for Dallas, period, because Romo didn't throw any touchdowns, and he only threw for 199 yards. So just not a great day all in all for the Cowboys.
No, especially in Jerry World there. You kind of expect him to pull this one out. All right, so we're going to move on to the third game of Thanksgiving. Jay, that reminds me, is there always been 3 games on Thanksgiving? Because I just remember 2 historically.
Nope, it's always just been 2, man. And you know what? I am more than happy with 3 games on Thanksgiving. It just makes the day that much more to be thankful for.
Indeed, it does. If I just had a brain fart there and forgot like the last couple of decades of football, I could have sworn there was only 2. But no, that was not the case. We had the clash of titans, as they say, between the Seahawks and the 49ers. Really wasn't much of a game here, folks. You expect this to be a defensive struggle in this matchup here in the NFC, and that's exactly what it was. Russell Wilson was 15 of 22 for 236 yards and 1 score. Marshawn Lynch carried the ball 20 times, as one would expect, for 104 yards, was unable to get in the end zone in this one. Receiving-wise, of course, there's really never much to talk about here for Seattle. man, it's pretty brutal here. Luke Wilson, the tight end there, was targeted the most, caught 4 of 6 targets for 39 yards, and Robert Turbin got the lone receiving touchdown on simply 2 targets for 47 yards.
Yeah, Seattle is not they're just not anything near what they were last year, to be honest with you. And that's just the way it is. 49ers, Kaepernick, not a great day for him either. 16 to 29, 121 yards and 2 picks. He was sacked 4 times for 21 yards, rushed 3 times for 17. Frank Gore, 10 for 28, no touchdowns. Carlos Hyde had 3 receptions for 38 yards, and that was what led the team. Crabtree only had 3 catches for 10 yards in that one. The 49ers not looking great last week.
Man, Kaepernick's just been brutal. I think the best thing going for him is his giant tortoise.
Yes.
I think that's all we have there, folks. All right, so we're going to move on to my Broncos. And the drubbing they laid on the Chiefs, interdivision matchup in Arrowhead, no less. We showed up, and we got the job done. Behind Peyton Manning, who actually had his worst fantasy day of the season, I believe, in this one, for you Peyton Manning owners out there, through completed 17 of 34 for only 179 yards. I mean, seriously, usually he triples that. He did throw 2 touchdowns and no picks, but wow, that was it was a low day for him in that regard from fantasy perspective. But man, the shining one, the pride of Denver, I can say right now, actually, C.J. Anderson carried the ball a whopping 32 times, which is probably why Peyton didn't score as much, for 168 yards, averaging 5.3 yards a carry. Damn. So glad that somebody dropped him in one of my leagues, and I was able to snatch him up and start him. It's just awesome.
Fucking rookies. Fucking rookie. I'm just gonna clarify here real quick. It's the same fucking guy that drafted Robbie Gould in the 5th round, and that is what we forced him to name his team. Robbie Gould in the 5th. Fucking rookies.
That's all true, folks. You heard it here first. All right, so Juwan Thompson got a little business here. Carried the ball 10 times for 39 yards. Receiving perspective, Demaryius Thomas, as you would expect, targeted the most. Team high 13, caught 6 for 63 and a score, unlike the 3 touchdowns he scored last week. Emmanuel Sanders caught also 6 of his 11 targets for 73 yards. C.J. Anderson got a little bit into this receiving game, caught 2 of his 3 targets for 17 and a score. So he had a very good day, had a touchdown through the air in addition to all the yards on the ground.
Yeah, great day for him, I'll tell you what. All right, moving on, Kansas City side of the ball here. Alex Smith, 15 to 23, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Although he was sacked 6 times for negative 43 yards, folks. Ouch. Jamal Charles, 10 carries, 35 yards, added 4 catches for 24 yards and a touchdown. The touchdown saving the day for his owners at least a little bit. Travis Kelce led the team in receiving, 3 catches for 36 yards, not great. Justin Avant had 2 for 30. I mean, the Chiefs got beat in this one, and the reason is they are not great.
No, I had some fantasy stuff on the line in this game. I just wanted to choke out Alex Smith. Just wanted to choke him right out. Very, very frustrated. All right, so we're going to move on to, wow. This just in, the Redskins aren't very good.
Just in, huh?
Especially when they play the Colts, and especially when Andrew Luck throws 5 touchdowns. In addition to his 5 touchdowns, he did throw 1 pick, but who the hell cares? Completed 19 of 27 for 370 yards. If I hadn't had him against me in a very important matchup, I would feel much better about
Dude, fuck Andrew Luck.
Yeah, that was brutal. It's brutal going against the man. Yeah, so moving right along.
Thank you.
Boom Heron. Wow, he's shockingly the best running back in Indy with Trent Richardson. Again, we say this every week. He carried the ball 8 times for 88 yards. It's 11 yards per carry. Granted, he did rip off a long 49-yarder. He did score a rushing touchdown. Trent Richardson also carried it for 8 times, but wow, only for 12 yards, whopping 1.5 yards per carry. Yeah, not so great there. Moncrief, kind of mentioned him earlier. We mentioned him when we talk about waiver wire pickups. Caught 3 of only 4 targets, but when it's for 134 yards and 2 scores, that's what's considered a good day. You'll take that. Kobe Fleener caught 4 of 7 for $127 himself, and also 2 scores. So if you had any part of Moncrief or Fleener, you were having a bad day or good day. And Fleener, for that matter, he dropped a wide open, which would have been a score. It was a long pass from Andrew Luck. He was wide ass open. He would have ran it in easily for like a 50-yard touchdown. He just flat out dropped it. It's one of those deals where you're so wide open you just can't catch the ball. It's like something with how the planets align or something. That's just the way it is. T.Y. Hilton caught all 5 of his 5 targets for 62 yards and a score himself. Reggie Wayne, before injuring his spleen somehow, I would assume that meant he got hit pretty hard in the abdomen region, caught 4 of his 5 targets for 31 yards, and that is a wrap.
Yeah, the Redskins, they do suck. They do. Colt McCoy, 31 of 47, 392 yards and 3 touchdowns. Hey, there's a bright spot. Look at that.
They suck a little less with Colt McCoy.
Yeah, a little bit less. Alfred Morris, 17 carries, 67 yards. All right, Jordan Reed, 9 catches, 123 yards on 11 targets. Didn't score. Deshaun Jackson, 5 for 84 and a touchdown. Roy Halou, 4 for 61 and a score. Hello! And Logan Paulson caught the other touchdown on his only target for 16 yards. Pierre Garçon continue. I don't know how this happens, man. The guy throws for almost 400 yards, and Pierre Garçon only accounts for 9 of them on 3 catches on 9 targets. Second most targeted. So what the hell's going on with Pierre Garçon? A little insight here or there, Kamish?
I got nothing, man. It doesn't make any sense.
None. It's total opposite from last year, man. Oh, McCoy did fumble the ball 4 times, though, by the way, so.
There's that.
There's that.
All right, well, we're going to move on to the Texans crushing the lowly Titans. And it's easy to do that when you have DeAndre Hopkins on your team.
Apparently.
Wow. Because he caught 9 balls on his 9 targets. That means he caught all of them, for those of you following at home, for a whopping 238 yards and 2 scores. He got it done. Andre Johnson, who? What? Yeah, you're no longer the best wide receiver on your team, brother. You're still a steady guy. Love ya. All that good stuff.
He did make the end zone this week.
He did. It's rare. He got that grass rash that he gets when he scores a touchdown. Put a little Benadryl on that, but he did score. But Hopkins was the man here. But I would say that, except he might have been surpassed by Ryan Fitzpatrick, of all people, who threw 6 touchdowns. I don't know what it is this year with quarterbacks deciding to throw 5 and 6 touchdowns at a time, but it is happening this year. It's called the passing NFL. 24 of 33 to add to that for 358 yards. The guy just crushed it. But, folks, let's not just start jumping on the Fitzpatrick train. He probably won't throw 1 touchdown next week, but he did get it done.
He'll throw 6 picks next week.
Yeah, probably. Arian Foster was actually able to play in this game, and that was good for his fantasy owners who started him because he carried the ball 19 times for 79 yards, but he also caught 5 of 7 targets for 26 yards and scored a touchdown through the air. This is a good day. J.J. Watt, again, caught his low target, or high target, I guess, for, defensive end, because they don't usually get targeted, but he caught it for a touchdown yet again, which I believe is his 3rd touchdown of the season.
Dude, do you realize he's like the 23rd ranked tight end in the NFL in fantasy?
That's how bad the tight end landscape is, or that's just how good J.J. Watt is. I'm not quite sure.
Yes. Well, J.J. Watt is. I think he's got to be on the freaking roster
MVP
for
of the season.
MVP, dude. Season
Absolutely.
straight up. I mean, come on. The guy is a beast. And when he's playing a team like Tennessee, he even looks better. Zach Mettenberger, 13 and 19, 184 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Jake Locker saw a little action in this one, 6 for 12, 91 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. So, yuck. Bishop Sankey, 10 carries for 42 yards. That's 4.2 yards per carry, which is pretty damn good. He's just not getting enough carries because they're giving Dexter McCluster the ball and trying to let Mettenberger throw it. Kendall Wright, 7 catches, 132 yards, and a touchdown. Holy shit, he showed up. Won't do it again, folks. Don't worry. Doesn't do it very often. Nate Washington, 5 for 61, and a touchdown. Anyway, not a great day for Tennessee. Good day for Houston, and I am done with that shit.
Yeah, it was a brutal one. All right, we're going to move on to the Bills beating the Cleveland Browns 26-10. This was Johnny Manziel's coming out party to some extent. Granted, he only got to play a half. However, Hoyer was 18 of 30 attempts for $192 and 2 interceptions, which is probably why he got put on the pine before Johnny Manziel came in and completed 5 of 8 for 63. Manziel did have a rushing touchdown. He did look pretty good. He drove him down the field, ran it in as he would kind of expect him to from, I don't know, roughly 15 yards out or so. Made some good throws out of the pocket, so some good things. And, of course, he wasn't the starter all week and got all the time and reps with the first team. So he'll probably do decent once he gets in there, but that will not be the start of this week, as we mentioned earlier. Terrence West carried the ball 7 times for 32 yards. Isaiah Crowell 17 times for 29 yards. So none of those guys did good. West is having fumbling issues, and the coach came out and kind of gave him hell over the media for having ball security concerns. So we'll see what goes on there. Miles Austin, as we mentioned, has been put on IR. He caught 7 of his 9 targets for 86 yards before exiting stage left. Josh Gordon targeted team high 13 times, caught 7 for 75.
Yeah, that's not what we want to see out of you there, Joshy. We waited all this fucking time, and that's what we get. Come on, man. All right, Kyle Orton, 17 to 31, 190, a touchdown, a couple picks. Typical, Kyle Orton type of day. Fred Jackson, 21 carries for 70 yards. Anthony Dixon only carried the ball 6 times for 25 yards. Robert Woods, 4 catches for 71 yards. The lone touchdown was thrown to Chris Hogan on one of his 2 targets for 8 yards. And that's it for the lowly Buffalo Bills.
All right, so we're going to move on to what ended up being a tight one, a comeback victory for the Chargers, 34-33 over the Ravens. Phillip Rivers, 34 of 45 for 383 yards and 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. So he definitely did well for his owners in this one. Ryan Matthews carried the ball 12 times for 40 yards, did get in the end zone with 1 score. Keenan Allen targeted a team high 15 times, caught 11 for $121 and 2 touchdowns. So if you hung on to Keenan Allen, of course you saw what he could do last year. He came through here for sure. Eddie Royal caught 9 of his 10 targets for 81 yards and a score. So if you played him on a flyer in a deep league or in a daily league, he came through and then some.
Abso-fucking-lutely. All right, Joe can't spell elite without his name, Flacco, 19 to 31, 225 and 2 touchdowns. Justin Forsett, 24 carries, 106 yards, no touchdowns. He did add 2 catches for 17 yards. Torrey Smith, 6 catches for 65 yards and a couple of scores. And that's really it for what went on with the Ravens. Rob?
All right, so we're going to move on to another come-from-behind victory, and that would be by the Jaguars of all teams, believe it or not.
What?
Yes,
well, against the Giants, okay.
Yeah.
I'll believe that.
Battle of the Titans here. The Jaguars are now 2-10. They came back from a 21-0 deficit to beat Eli Manning and the Giants 25-24. Blake Bortles was 21 of 35 for 194 yards and 1 touchdown. He also ran the ball 5 times for 68 yards. Denard Robinson has cooled off considerably from what he was doing a few weeks ago. Carried the ball 11 times for 44 yards, and that was actually about it. He did catch 3 of his 4 targets for 10, but didn't do what you would have expected there. Alan Hearns caught 4 of his 8 targets for 42 yards. And Marquise Lee, the rookie here, he seems to be the guy really standing out from a receiving perspective, even over Cecil Shorts. He caught 6 of his 8 targets for 75 yards and a score. And I will mention this, the Jaguar receiving corps has the best fantasy playoff matchups against wide receivers of any wide receiver corps in the NFL. So Lee might be a good guy to pick up or play in daily leagues in the next month or so.
Good tip. Good tip. All right, the Giants. Eli Manning, 24 of 34, 247 yards and a touchdown. Sorry, I'm used to saying pick with Eli Manning.
It's only natural.
It is. It's only natural. All right, Rashad Jennings, 26 carries, 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. Added 3 catches for 3 yards, but PPR league, that's 3 more points. So hey. Odell Beckham Jr., 7 catches, 90 yards. Donnell 5 for 55, and that's really it for what went on. Oh, Eli Manning. I see. He didn't throw any picks, Rob. He just lost 2 fumbles.
Only 2.
It's only 2. That's it for the Giants, man.
All right, so we're going to move on here to the Cincinnati Bengals defeating the lowly Bucks 14-13 because the Bucks can't kick a field goal, evidently. So Josh McCown, man, I don't even know if I can speak to this, Jay. He really let us down. This guy,
oh, dude,
is brutal. It's brutal. 15 of 29 for only 190 yards. Threw no touchdowns, of course, because why would he when we had to play him? Did throw an interception, so thank you for that, kind sir. Doug Martin, I don't know what to think about this. He got 18 carries for 58 yards, which is 3.2 yards a carry. So for Doug Martin, that's not half bad. Then he scored a rushing touchdown also. So yeah, there's that. Receiving wise, Charlie Sims caught all 4 of his targets for 49. Mike Evans, I mean, these guys, caught 4 of his 9 targets for 49. And Vincent Jackson got 2 of his 4 for 24 because Josh McCown sucks, and I'll leave it at that.
He does suck. He can go. He can suck. Well, anyway, Andy Dalton, 19 and 27, 176 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. Not great there. That is basically subtracting the touchdown point wise. Mohamed Sanu, 1 of 1 for 11 yards. And that is throwing, folks. Gio Bernard, 10 for 49. Jeremy Hill, 13 for 40. It's just not great for these guys at all. James Wright, 3 catches for 59 yards. AJ Green, 4 for 57 and a touchdown on 8 targets. Gresham, 5 for 33. Sanu, 2 for 19. And the running backs only caught a handful of balls for almost no yards. So not great. Especially going up against Tampa, you would have figured they would have done a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, folks, we're going to move on to what really is a drubbing. I know we kind of throw out the word drubbing a little loosely, actually, maybe a little too often. But in this one, it really rings true. The Rams...
I would say more than drubbing isn't what this is. This is called domination.
Complete and utter routing, domination, something. The Rams won 52-0. That's what happened here against the lowly Raiders, because who else but the Raiders would take it where they took it to the tune of 52-0. We're explicit on iTunes, folks. So Sean Hill, behind their fearless leader, that is.
It's Sean in your butt.
Hill completed, well, when we talk about Trey Mason here in a minute, you're going to know why. Sean Hill, 13-22 for only $183. Did throw 2 passing touchdowns because you got to get to 52 total somehow. Trey Mason helped him get there by carrying it 14 times, but for 117 yards, averaging 8.4 yards a carry and 2 scores on the ground. He also, I might add, caught 3 of 4 targets for 47 yards and a passing touchdown. This was a Trey Mason type of day. And, yeah, so I guess we have Mr. Stedman Bailey. He's another decent guy to pick up on waivers. A little prequel here. Caught 5 of 6 targets for 100 yards. He is his coming out party here. Kenny Britt.
Go to hell, Kenny Britt.
We hate you, Kenny Britt. He caught Jay. He caught all 1 of his 1 targets for 13 yards. Nice job.
Fuck you, Kenny Britt.
Yes.
You can go right to hell. Played you in fucking daily leagues ever. Even though I swore you off, I played you.
He's a Temptress.
Sweet, sweet Temptress. Go to hell. All right, Oakland. Derek Carr, 24 of 39, 173 yards, and 2 picks, which is probably why Matt Schaub saw some work. 5 for 9, 57 yards. And, oh, hey, look at that. He threw a pick, too. You got to realize the St. Louis defense also scored a touchdown this week, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 43-yard interception return for a touchdown. Yeah, the defense, they scored like 34 points, man, against the Raiders. So Darren McFadden, 11 for 27. Jones Drew, 5 for 21. I mean, just nothing going on. Nothing. There's nothing to mention in their receiving or their. We're done. The Raiders suck.
They do indeed. All right, so we're going to move on to what would be a more competitive game. And it's kind of the Saints' surprising victory over the Steelers, which you wouldn't have said that, a couple years ago. So they're now 5 they get a win. Now they're 5-7, but they do. They beat the Saints 35-32, or the Steelers 35-32. Drew Brees had quite the day. Actually, completed 19 of 27 for 257 yards, but wait for it, 5 touchdowns. I don't know what this is with these 5 and 6 touchdowns, man. This is ridiculous. This makes you rethink your drafting a QB early sort of thing. You just have to pick the right one, I guess. Holy crap. All right, so Mark Ingram did get the majority of the carries here, and it wasn't close. 23 carries for $122, no rushing touchdowns. And Kenny Stills, another great guy to pick up off waivers.
Oh, yeah, not in my leagues, bitches. I got him in both my leagues.
Yes, he caught 5 of 6 targets for 162 yards and a score. He did catch a 69-yard TD.
Boom!
Yeah, it was quite something. Yeah, and that was all that's worth mentioning on the Saints.
All right, Roethlisberger, well, he threw 2 interceptions, we'll say that, but he also threw for 435 yards, completing 32 passes on 58 attempts for 2 touchdowns. So the 2 picks, still 435 yards, pretty damn good day. Le'Veon Bell, 21 carries, 95 yards, and score. Also caught the ball 8 times for 159 yards. Antonio Brown caught the ball 8 times for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. And other than that, you don't really have anything at all to mention on the Pittsburgh side of the ball.
Yeah, I must say, Jake, because I forgot. And I forgot because it wasn't on the box score. And that would be Jimmy Graham.
Zero!
Getting a 0. And what's worse than that, he wasn't even targeted. Yes, you heard me correctly. Jimmy Graham, the number 1, the number 2 tight end of all the NFL, was not even targeted in a game of which the Saints.
What did he do to Drew Brees? He must have banged Drew's wife. That's what I'm guessing.
That's what I was gonna say. This just in. It's a rumor, folks. Just so we don't get sued.
No. This is not a rumor.
Oh, this is a rumor. this is a rumor. But something.
This just in, reports coming out of the Saints.
Saints locker room.
Room.
The Saints scored 35 points and Jimmy Graham's not targeted. That doesn't even make sense. And this is not the first time this season Jimmy Graham has got a 0. So I've never been one to draft a tight end in the first round, and that will continue moving forward. You can't have that, Jimmy Graham. You can't. And I played him in a daily league, and I spent a shit ton of money to get him to play him in daily leagues.
And I won.
and I got a 0. So thank you again for that. So we're moving right along. We're going to move right along here to the Vikings game, where they beat the lowly Panthers because the Panthers suck. 0, yes. Yeah. So Teddy Bridgewater completed 15 of 21 for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns and no picks. So there's that. Matt Asiata, otherwise known as the Ass Man, carried the ball 14 times for 52 yards. Ben Tate did see his debut here for the Vikings, carried the ball 5 times for 15 yards. So those of you doing the quick math, 3 yards per carry for him. Greg Jennings was targeted a team-high 6 targets, caught 5 of them for 45 and a score. And, yeah, that's really Kyle Rudolph was kind of coming back his second game from injury, caught 2 of 3 targets for 7. Cordell Patterson, I'm going to throw this in there because he's not on the list here because he kind of sucks, I guess. I don't think he was even targeted until the second half, and he played very few number of snaps. So this guy, I don't know what something's going on behind the scenes with this guy. He is a talent. We've seen it. But he's pissed off the coaches, or something's going on here. It's super red flags everywhere around Cordell Patterson next season.
Yeah, amen to that. Amen to that. I had red flags about him this season, even though we drafted him. And he didn't do well the first couple weeks, but after that it was just blech. All right, Cam Newton continues to just be disappointing. 18 of 35, 194, touchdown, a pick. Not great. He did add 9 carries for 49 yards, but no scores on the ground. Jonathan Stewart, 12 for 85. D'Angelo Williams, 7 for 21. Greg Olsen, 5 catches for 59 yards. We could have used a touchdown there, but instead a guy named Philly Brown got it on one of his 2 catches for 34 yards. So, all in all, the Panthers are a disappointing team altogether, except for maybe Greg Olsen.
Did you say there was a man named Philly Brown?
Philly Brown.
Isn't that the term for a female horse?
It might be. I don't know. I'm not into female horses, Rob.
I believe it is. Yeah, Philly Brown. So that's curious. All right, so we're going to move on, because that was awkward. We're going to move on to the Falcons beating the Cardinals, and that was another thing that's awkward, because that really shouldn't have happened.
Well, here's another sore point.
It really is, and that's why I'm not going to talk about him. I'll let you do that.
You're an ass.
Drew Stanton, man, not as good as they hoped for, because this team is not looking as good as they once were. Drew Stanton completed 24 of 39 for 294 yards, 1 touchdown and 2 picks. Ellington got dinged up in this one, only carried the ball 5 times for 12 yards before he got hurt and exited stage left with what they're calling, I don't know exact. Yeah, it was like a brutal hit pointer or a bad one or something along those lines. Not good. Severe. There it is. Severe. So one Mr. Marion Grice had to come in and take up the slack, but he did that to the tune of 5 carries for 16 yards. So nice job out of you. And they have a very tough record moving forward as far as against the run. So picking up Ellington's handcuff and playing him moving forward is not something that we at Red Zone Warriors are going to recommend for you to do. All right, from a receiving perspective, Michael Floyd. What could have been?
Let's not talk about him either.
What could have been? Caught 5 of 10 targets for 53 yards. John Brown, there's actually 2 J. Brown, so it's kind of confusing. But John Brown caught 7 of 9 targets for 75, so he continues to play a rather significant role in this offense, especially from a PPR perspective.
Sheriff John Brown always hated me. Anyway, Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan.
Matt, we should have played you, Ryan.
Matt, we should have fucking played you, Ryan, and we would be a lot, significantly richer right now. Anyway, 30 of 41, 361, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Yeah. All right, Steven Jackson, 18 carries for 101 yards. Devonta Freeman only had 8 carries for 26 yards, so not. Yeah. Steven Jackson, will you just fucking retire already? Julio Jones, 10 catches, 189 yards, and a touchdown. Julio Jones killed it this week. Harry Douglas had 9 catches for 116 yards. And a guy by the name of Levine Toyoliolioliolo. I don't even know. It's just
Tololo,
whatever. 4 catches, 15 yards, and a touchdown. So, yeah, that's it. I don't want to talk about Matt Ryan anymore for the rest of the year.
Well, I'll just add to that Patrick Peterson got taken to the woodshed by Julio Jones. I mean, it was embarrassing.
Freaking dude.
I mean, they talk about Patrick. I'm the best cover tight end in the league. You know, Revis, he doesn't cover, the best wide receiver every week, and neither does Sherman. Yeah, well, you cover the best wide receiver on the Falcons and got your ass handed to you, so pipe down.
He even carved it up in nice little slices and braised it for you.
Yeah. And you just know that I would tell that to his face if he wasn't so big. All right, moving on to the game of the week, the game that everyone wanted to see, the game that might just be the future Super Bowl game of 2014. That's because the Lions are clearly going to make it, and so is Denver, so I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
But on the off chance, on the slim chance that does not happen, this is a good bet. The Patriots playing the Packers in 2014 for the Super Bowl. Well, I think the Packers, they're a little better, and they showed that in this game because they won the game. So that happened. They were in Lambeau, however, so you give them that 3 points there in Vegas, but they won by 5. So
Lambeau should be more like 7 to 10 points.
Yeah, plus it's cold. That's not exactly much warmer in New England either. However, Aaron Rodgers, the best quarterback in the NFL, I believe, and I am a Denver fan, so that's saying something. He was 24 of 38 for 368 yards and 2 scores because he shows up in the clutch. He shows up. He could throw it blindfolded, it appears, the way he's running this offense. And that helps when you have Eddie Lacy carrying the ball 21 times for 98 yards. That is a whopping 4.7 yards per carry. And, of course, Devontae Adams had a big day because, well, Revis and Browner is what it was on the other side of the ball. So Jordy Nelson only caught 2 of his 6 targets. Thankfully, one of those was for a touchdown, a long 45-yard touchdown, where I was screaming at the television and about threw my voice out. But Randall Cobb caught 7 of 11 for 85, and as mentioned, Devontae Adams caught 6 of 11 for a $121 because you want to stay away from Revis Island, and they did, and it was successful.
Yeah, so now I have a quick, just a little question. Throwing your voice out, is that like a ventriloquism injury?
No, it's more like a teenage girl injury.
Ah, yes, okay, that's right. All right, moving on to New England here. Tom Brady, 22 of 35, 245 yards and 2 touchdowns. LeGarrette Blount, 10 carries for 58 yards, but Brandon Bolden did get the touchdown here on he had 3 carries, 17 yards. Gronkowski, 7 catches on 12 targets, 98 yards. Edelman, 7 catches for 48 yards. LaFell, 5 for 38, but the stupid son of a bitch caught 2 touchdowns. Another sore point. Absolutely.
Well, we're going to move on to the real sore point, the last game of the week, the Monday night game, the Dolphins against the lowly Jets. The Dolphins did pull this one out in a low-scoring defensive effort, 16-13. I can't talk about the Dolphins, so I'm going to talk about the Jets, and that's painful enough.
I fucking hate you.
That's why I go first. Geno Smith. Wow, this was impressive. He completed 7 of 13 passes for 65 yards and a pick. Yes! Now we're talking. I believe they just did that in Pee Wee football here last Saturday. Wow. That's brutal. It's hard to follow that, Jay. It's really tough to follow that. Chris Johnson carried the ball 17 times for 105 yards. But don't be dazzled, folks. Chris Johnson still stinks. This was an anomaly. Chris Ivory carried it 16 times for 62 yards. I would actually still play Chris Ivory.
The point is that the Dolphins' rushing defense is terrible.
Yeah, they just ran all over the place.
49 carries total between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they ran because they could, and they ran because Geno Smith can't throw the ball
Exactly.
vertically down the field. And because of that, there's really no one on the Jets receiving core worth talking about. I mean, Eric Decker's and Percy Harvin are the biggest names here. They each caught the ball a collective 3 times for roughly 29 yards, so there's that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Percy Harvin actually carried the ball more times than he caught it, 6 times, yeah. And then Greg Salas, the other wide receiver, got the end-around score, so.
Yeah. He looked really gimpy doing that, by the way. He looked like slower than any white boy should ever look.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, moving on here. Ryan fucking Tannehill. 25 of 35 for 235 yards, that 11 more of which should have gone to Jarvis Landry. And the interception that ended the game, just fuck you, Tannehill. Lamar Miller, 13 carries for 56 yards. And, oh, look at that, he got a touchdown. That should have gone to Jarvis Landry. If you guys can't tell, I'm really bitter because we lost, because Jarvis Landry, who did catch 8 balls for 68 yards, which isn't anything to scoff at, just needed to get 1 more catch for 11 more yards for us. And that was it. Mike Wallace, 6 catches for 69 yards. And there's not much other to say besides fuck you, Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, well, in the Jets kicker.
No, dude, Nick, fuck you, fuck.
You know, Nick, if you just connect on that 43-yard field goal, the ball, it would have probably gone to overtime, and Landry probably would have got another catch. So you are definitely off the commission's Christmas card list this year.
No fruit baskets for your bitch ass.
Nothing at all. All right, well, that's it for the recap of Week 13. And we're going to head on to the waiver wire picks. I know we're getting into, this is typically the first week of the playoffs here for the vast majority of leagues. So we're going to try to help you out if you're in desperation need. But if you're in desperation need, you probably barely snuck in your playoffs, so good luck to you. But, Jay, you're going to start us off with Mr. Moneyfingers, I believe. Yeah,
Johnny Football. And he, some people were expecting him to make his first start this week, but apparently that is not true because it has been decreed that Brian Hoyer will be starting this week. So, yeah, he will not be an interesting streaming option against the Colts. Brian Hoyer, though, possibly could be. I don't know. Manziel could come in relief because the Colts might force the Cleveland offense to throw the ball a shit ton. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and say that that's probably what's going to happen, is that they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. So I would pick up Johnny Manziel just for the fact that he's going to be starting there next year. He may be starting there within the next week or two, and they've got the Bengals and the Panthers coming up in the next 2 weeks. So Panthers would probably be most people's championship game, and Manziel against the Panthers is actually not that bad of an idea.
Yeah, it's really not. All right, so the last quarterback we're going to mention, it's worth mentioning at least on some level, I guess, is Mr. Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I realize he just threw 6 touchdowns, but again, that's never going to happen again, folks. We're only mentioning him because he has the Jaguars coming up this week, which is actually more like a mediocre matchup. It's not a great matchup. They actually have a pretty decent defense. Now, Fitz, after coming back, filling in for Ryan Mallett after his ending injury, I should say, he has thrown for at least 200 yards in 8 of his 10 games, and he's only failed to throw a touchdown once in those games. So, again, he's a very, very low-end, I wouldn't even say starter, but he's 2-quarterback league. But if you're desperate out there, he does have a decent matchup. It might be worth a look.
Yeah, so we're going to move on to the running backs now. And the Colts running back, Daniel Herron, he carried 8 times for 88 yards and a touchdown against a somewhat decent Washington run D on Sunday. His stock's going to go up if he's not already off your waiver wires, which I'm sure he is in a lot of leagues at this point. He's basically taken over the role that Ahmad Bradshaw was filling, splitting carries with Trent Richardson, doing better than Trent Richardson, catching the ball out of the backfield, and he's not lost a fumble in his last couple games. So Oh, he has. No, I'm sorry. He has lost a fumble in each of his last 2 games, but the coach spoke glowingly about him. They've got the Browns, Texans, and Cowboys coming up. So if he's there and you can get him, you should get him because the guy is going to put up, decent points.
All right, we're going to talk about one last running back here. We feel we need to mention Latavius Murray. Now, Latavius, kind of expected him to play last week, but he was held out because of his concussion that he sustained the week prior. He looked good in that week. Granted, he only had a whopping 4 carries. He just happened to score 2 touchdowns on those 4 carries, so people were looking at him. But I will say his matchups in the next 3 weeks are absolutely brutal. He has the 49ers, the Chiefs, and the Bills. It's probably one of the worst, if not the worst, running back matchups here for the fantasy playoffs. So we just felt we needed to mention him, but he is not somebody you're going to want to put in your lineup anytime soon.
No, he's not. And moving on to wide receivers, and somebody that you do want to put in your lineup, Saints wide receiver Kenny Stills. He's obviously surpassed Marcus Colston to become the Saints' best wide receiver. He torched the Steelers for 5 catches, 162 yards, and a touchdown, including a 69-yard touchdown catch. And that came on the heels of an 8-catch, 98-yard outing against the Ravens in Week 12. He's got 34 catches over his last 7 games. He's averaging 15.7 yards per catch on the season. They've got, and this right here, this is beautiful for me heading into into playoffs and whatnot. Panthers, Bears, Falcons. With Drew Brees throwing the ball to Kenny Stills, thank you. I'll take that.
Yeah, that's what's called a great set of matchups here oncoming for the playoffs. Of course, it helps that Brandon Cooks is on IR and Marquise Colston is now too old to catch the ball, so that helps.
Yes.
All right, Jarvis Landry, we mentioned him. Really wasn't his fault that we lost, but the guy's he's a good slot wide receiver. He's really good for PPR, definitely more so than standard because he doesn't catch long passes all that often. But he's had 4 touchdown catches. Unfortunately, last week wasn't one of those. In his last 4 games and has averaged 6 receptions per game over that span. So he's blossoming for sure in this offense. Ryan Tannehill is a pretty decent quarterback. He's actually pretty accurate according to the stats and so forth. So he's got a great matchup. The best matchup actually versus wide receivers is the Ravens. He's got them, then the Patriots, which you'll probably want to stay away from, and then the Vikings. So he's a very good play this week. If you're thinking whether or not to start him or if he's actually on your waiver wire.
Yeah, well, good luck finding him on waiver wires at this point, I think. But if you do, well, more power to you. All right, now this guy you might find on your waiver wire, the Rams wide receiver Stedman Bailey. He had 4 catches, 128 yards, and a touchdown in Week 11. Britt has only had 3 catches for 50 yards in the 2 games since. That was Kenny Britt. Okay, Week 11, 4 catches, 128 yards, and a touchdown. And then 3 catches for 50 yards in the 2 games since. Matchup against the Redskins and their horrible secondary could perk Kenny Britt up again, but Bailey might be the bigger fantasy threat right now. Over his last 2 games, Bailey's had 12 catches for 189 yards, a touchdown, and 15 targets. He's definitely a sneaky Week 14 play with a potential to take advantage of a favorable Redskins matchup, although the next week after that is the Cardinals, so good luck with that.
Yeah, he's not exactly Julio Jones. All right, the last wide receiver we're going to talk about is Dante Moncrief. He exploded for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns last week and has had at least a 100-yard performance in 2 of his last 5 games. So, this guy, he's definitely emerging here. The number 1 corner on the opposite side always, of course, takes on T.Y. Hilton. The Reggie Wayne, of course, he's old and so forth, but now he's got a kidney issue and is out for the season. So Moncrief is definitely a sneaky play here moving forward. They've got the Browns, which is actually a good matchup for Moncrief because their stud corner is going to be locking down on T.Y. Hilton. And then they have the Texans, which is a fantastic matchup, and then the Cowboys, which is actually really good as well. So if you're needing a guy, Dante Moncrief might just be your guy.
Yes, he might be. Might be. Moving on to tight ends, we only got one to talk about this week, and that is Jordan Reed. He's going to be very coveted in leagues where he's available, even though his Week 14 matchup against the Rams is less than ideal. And he's often injured. He's returning from a minor hamstring injury on Sunday. Had 9 catches for 123 yards while tying a season high with 9 targets. And Colt McCoy's 2 starts at QB for the Redskins. Reed has caught 16 of 18 targets, and he's caught a touchdown pass this season. But Reed is nevertheless a danger. He hasn't caught a touchdown pass this season. He's a dangerous weapon. After that, we got the Giants and the Eagles. And that's all I got for Jordan Reed.
All right, well, that's it for the waiver wire pickups for this upcoming week. And, Jay, we're going to go on to who do I start? So who do you have for us?
All right, so who do I start? First up, we've got either Josh Gordon or Alshon Jeffrey. Now, Gordon is going against Indianapolis, and they are the 25th worst against wide receivers, while Alshon is going against Dallas, who is the 10th worst. So Dallas is obviously the better matchup here. Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to give the edge to Josh Gordon here. But part of that is because Alshon Jeffrey is dealing with a hamstring injury, so I don't know that he's going to be 100%. And Josh Gordon is just getting targeted so much. I think he's going to keep that up and will do well enough this week.
Yeah, I am going to agree with you, and mainly because of the injury to Alshon. If that wasn't the case, I would probably be more torn on this. But, yeah, Josh Gordon for sure. All right, moving on here. Giovanni Bernard or Kenny Stills. Gio is going against Carolina, who is the 12th worst against running backs, and Stills is going against Pittsburgh, who's the 19th worst against wide receivers.
Yeah, even though I'm a big Gio guy, but with Jeremy Hill there and the way their splits have been, and that Jeremy Hill is outperforming Gio of late, I think I would give the nod to Kenny Stills in this one.
Yeah, well, because I am a Kenny Stills guy at this point in the season, I'm going to go ahead and do the same. I think against Pittsburgh. Or wait a minute, that's the opposite, isn't it? We're going to have to redo that. I thought I had those in order, but I don't. Yeah, Gio's playing Pittsburgh. All right, we'll redo that.
So it's even better. That's even better for Stills because the 12th worst is actually better.
Yep. All right.
You think that's clear to the audience when we say 12th?
Yeah, 12th worst against is clear. I think,
okay,
for sure. All right, hold on. Let's pause. All right, Giovanni Bernard against Pittsburgh, or Kenny Stills against Carolina. Carolina is the 12th worst against wide receivers, and Pittsburgh is the 19th worst against running backs. So obviously Stills has the better matchup here. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm a big Gio guy. I was before the season and so forth, and but with Jeremy Hill there now and him splitting carries and Jeremy Hill actually outperforming Gio in the last couple weeks, I think I would give the nod to Kenny Stills in a better matchup, no less.
Yeah, same here. I got Kenny in 2 leagues right now, and I am rooting for him to do really, really well. All right, moving on here, we got Rashad Jennings or Mark Ingram, and Rashad Jennings is at Tennessee, and Ingram is at home against Carolina. Tennessee is the 4th worst team against the run, while Carolina is only the 23rd worst team against the run. So obviously big matchup discrepancy here. Saints got somebody coming back in Kyrie Robinson. So what are your thoughts, man?
Well, this is unfortunately one of those ones again where Rashad Jennings had an ankle injury. But if they're saying he's a go, he's active to play, and there's no just talk about him being gimpy or being on some sort of snap count. I mean, Rashad Jennings is the clear play, especially with Kyrie Robinson back. So I think, in fact, I might even go Andre. If Rashad Jennings is out, I might even go Andre Williams in that incredible matchup over Ingram, who now has Kyrie Robinson and Pierre Thomas to deal with.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree with you there, and that's, like I said earlier, unfortunate because I have Ingram. All right, so we're going to do another Rashad Jennings question here. So Rashad Jennings or Justin Forsett. As we know, Rashad is against Tennessee. Forsett is going against Miami, who is the 14th worst against the run. Who do you give the edge to here, Kamish?
Oh, this is tough. Again, I think if they were both 100%, I'd give it to Jennings here. But I think if Jennings starts and you're not 100% confident in his health, even though he's starting, Forsett does have a pretty good matchup here. He's been playing really well, so I'd probably give Forsett the nod.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give Forsett the nod because I watched Miami's defense against the run against the Jets this week and against Denver the week before. They're bad against the run, man. I mean, I was listening to the game on the radio on the way to work Monday night, and Boomer Esiason was literally clowning the Miami run defense. He was mocking them on the air about how bad they were. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and side with you on this, and Justin Forsett is going to be the guy to have on that one. All right, moving on here. Randall Cobb or Odell Beckham Jr. Now, Cobb is going up against Atlanta, who is the 4th worst against wide receivers. And Odell Beckham Jr. is going up against Tennessee, who's the 7th worst against wide receivers. So, close in the matchup region here. What do you think? Is this one going to be decided by the fact that Aaron Rodgers is so much better of a quarterback, or that Odell Beckham Jr. is the only person that Eli Manning seems to be able to throw the ball to consistently?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, they both have fantastic matchups. Randall Cobb does have the better quarterback, and he is playing at home. However, he does have a hamstring injury he's dealing with, I believe. But, man, it's tough. This is a coin flip. I love Odell. But I think I would give the nod to Randall Cobb.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you here. I think the Giants are going to come out and just kick the living shit out of Tennessee. I think Odell Beckham Jr. is going to go for a couple touchdowns and, between 90 and 115 yards or so. So I think he's going to have a really good game. I think Cobb has to share too much with Jordy Nelson. The tight ends there are starting to make a little noise, so I'm going to go ahead and say Odell Beckham Jr. on this one. So, hey, there's one we are disagreeing on. Moving on here, we got Jarvis Landry or Michael Crabtree. And this one, to me, isn't really much of a question, but I know some people might be asking it. Landry's going up against Baltimore, who is the worst team against the pass in the league, and Oakland is 27th worst, so they're actually not that bad against the pass. Rob, I already probably know where you're going with this, but I'm going to go ahead and let you answer it.
Yeah, it's Landry, hands down. It's not even close. Even in a standard league, I'd go Landry. Crabtree has been so inconsistent, and he was only targeted 3 times last week, so Landry is the clear-cut choice here.
Yeah, I agree, and not only is Crabtree Kaepernick, the whole 49ers organizations is just not great. You kind of understand why they're talking about getting rid of old Harbaugh at this point. They just don't seem to be headed in the right direction. All right, so moving on here, we got 2 Josh Gordon questions to end it off with. And just to state this right again, as we did earlier, Josh Gordon is up against Indianapolis, who is the 25th worst team against the pass. So, they're pretty good. Now, the question is Josh Gordon or Golden Tate, who is going against Tampa Bay, who is the 28th worst against the pass, a little bit better than Indianapolis even. And what do you think there, Gordon or Tate?
I got to go Gordon here. Tate's a beast, and if you've got them both, you're going to play them both. There's no doubt about it. Tate just gets targeted so much. He was targeted I think another 12 times last week and caught 10 of them. So he's fantastic. But I would, if you're having to pick one, I would have to go Josh Gordon.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there, unfortunately. I mean, I'm a Lions fan, and I love Golden Tate, but Josh Gordon, he's the Calvin Johnson. The question is, would you go Calvin Johnson or Golden Tate? You're going to say Calvin Johnson almost every time. Well, same difference here. All right, next question. This one's a little bit better. Josh Gordon with a tougher matchup against Indianapolis, or Brandon LaFell against a quite a bit easier matchup against San Diego, who's the 13th worst against the pass.
Yeah, again, I'm going to go Gordon. Brandon LaFell is less consistent than Golden Tate. I think the better question is, would you take Golden Tate or Brandon LaFell? And that's pretty close to me. I think I would take Tate in that. But Josh Gordon, he's the stud talent. I'd take him over all these guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. Although LaFell, he has been targeted quite a bit over the past few weeks. I think we can get the number here. He's been targeted 7 times a game over the past few weeks. Though that's gone up. He's, like 2 weeks ago, he's targeted 12 times. A couple weeks before that, 13. So he's starting to trend up a little bit. But I think you're right. I think Gordon's obviously the better talent here, and just the better receiver all around. So I'm going to go with that.
All right, well, that is it for the Who Do I Start segment of the show, and that's it for our show in general. So on the next show, we'll be discussing Week 15 waiver wire grabs, along with helping you decide who to start and who to sit. In the meantime, go to redzonewarriors.com, where you can check out all the waiver wire reports there, see our rankings, subscribe to and rate the show via iTunes. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter and tweet us all your fantasy football questions at Red Zone Warriors. So for the Cushman, I am Rob the Commish Smith. Good luck in your Week 1 playoffs, and we will catch you next time.